Weekend, but Trump is on track for big wins on Tuesday. Is a contested convention inevitable? Our political panel is going to debate that. Coming up next. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Ready, set, let's roll. Ready, set, let's ride. Get your little fine ass on the step, shimmy up inside.
Lying Ted Cruz has absolutely no way he can win. He's lying Ted. He lies. And Kasich has no, he's 1 for 38. I mean, he's running. I'm just running. Why are you running? I don't know. This is crooked Hillary Clinton.
Donald Trump, his campaign told us he'd be acting presidential. Maybe that's what it looks like. Our political panel joins us this morning to break down that and everything else that's going on in the political world. Political reporter for Real Clear Politics, Caitlin Huey-Burns, Democratic pollster Jessica Tarlov, and Republican strategist Boris Epshteyn. It's great to see you all. Caitlin, what? So the Trump campaign, Paul Manafort tells the RNC. I'm not at all surprised. But I love the fact that Trump gets out and says, you know, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to act presidential later. Right now, this is what I'm doing.
Well, here's the thing. He's running two separate campaigns right now. One, his campaign talking to members of the RNC, trying to pitch him as a presidential candidate, that kind of thing. And then in public, he knows his supporters will be irked by the idea that he's talking to RNC members. He's playing the game now. So he's keeping up kind of this public persona. And he's said before, and Carson has said before, that there are two different Donald Trumps. You know, the public persona and the behind-the-scenes kind of guy.
Jessica, those of us who cover politics are going to have to just rewrite what we think we know about it. It is working. There are 5 elections on Tuesday, and he's going to sweep them, it looks like.
I think so, yeah. I mean, I've never agreed with him more, enjoyed him more than I have in the past few weeks.
Trump. This is so good.
This is not me on Team Trump.
That's what I'm talking about.
But I gotta say, I mean, the fact that he's also explaining it to people to say, it further adds to the argument also that this game is totally rigged, that he says, well, I can go out here and I can talk this way, then I can talk this way, and it can all work because you're all like such dummies that I can manipulate the entire system here.
But actually, he's doing something a little different. He's not fooling people. He's like a magician. He's saying, this is a trick. I'm telling you right now, there's a kind of transparency about it, isn't it, Boris? Hillary Clinton gets out there and she's like, I really believe this, when you know she doesn't.
Right.
Trump gets out there and he's like, I don't believe it at all, but I'm saying it now. You know, so you can kind of assess it.
The bit he did with her as a robot is so right. That's exactly what she is, and he's the opposite of that, and people are so attracted to it. Listen, if you got Jessica Tarlov sitting here saying, I've never enjoyed Trump more.
I'm going to vote for Donald Trump. She just
said it. I'm excited. No, but in all seriousness,
excuse me.
If you look at what's going to happen on Tuesday, I mean, he's up by over 20 in most of the states. Connecticut, Delaware, up by 14 in Pennsylvania. Going to do really well in Rhode Island, Maryland. He's going to have a huge day on Tuesday. Then he's up by 8 in Indiana. That was a personal surprise to me, a pleasant surprise.
Pretty
I thought
shocking.
It'd be closer. And then 37 in California, Tucker.
And yet, Caitlin, we just did a story a second ago that Ted Cruz has won all these delegates. I don't remember any elections in the past 2 days.
Who's Ted Cruz?
Well, so this is what has changed in the past week, is that Ted Cruz is now mathematically eliminated from winning the nomination outright. So Donald Trump does have a point, saying, look, these guys are just running now to keep me from the nomination. And I think he's going to get some traction out of that. Even as Ted Cruz is well organized, I think he'll pick up delegates, you know, from here on out. But I'm not sure it will be enough to persuade people against him.
Right. I mean, it's not a democratic system, it turns out.
But we were just talking about this. It's going on the right and the left. You know, the Sanders campaign now, they know that they're essentially mathematically eliminated. They've started talking about flipping super delegates, things that Jeff Weaver and Tad Devine were like, we would never do that. And now, lo and behold, we want to play with the system. Ted Cruz, too. I mean, it feels really inauthentic and undemocratic to have these campaigns that are just running to deny someone the nomination. If it is the will of the people, and it seems to be for Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton right now, what's going on here?
It's helping Trump. There's no question about it.
Of course it is.
It's helping Trump the whole way. And the California numbers, he went from about 13, 14 to 37. And there was a big piece on Cruz in the Journal this weekend, and it's talking about how Cruz is now turning toward the establishment. This guy's spent his career throwing bombs at the establishment. Now, oh, I'm Mr. Establishment. Stop it. Get out of the race. Save it for later.
So, Caitlin, Hillary Clinton is saying she's happy to release the transcripts of her speeches to Goldman Sachs and other Wall Street banks as soon as everyone else does. Who would everyone else be?
That's a good question. And, you know, it's certainly not Bernie Sanders, of course.
He hasn't given that many $200,000 speeches to Goldman.
And I do think he gets a lot of mileage out of this argument. And I think that's why he's still getting, you know, support and people, you know, contributing to his campaign. I think that's going to be something that continues. You see that on the Republican side, too, kind of this, you know, populist sentiment and all of that. So I think he gets a lot out of that.
So, Jessica, I know a number of Democrats who support Hillary, unlike you aren't for Trump yet.
Right.
Maybe they will be.
By the end of my segment, for sure.
We're very excited for it.
But who say privately, what in the world was she thinking?
Say it publicly, actually.
She knew she was running for president. She's going to have to release these transcripts.
Well, I think that she is waiting to be running against a Republican. So she's waiting for the general because obviously Donald Trump has done things for business interests, Ted Cruz as well, John Kasich. I mean, anyone really on the right. So I think that she just doesn't want to create greater contrast between her and Bernie Sanders. And I think she thought she was going to get lucky on the tax return issue. Remember how she used that as the pivot at the debate?
Yes.
Where she said, well, Bernie Sanders, where's your tax returns? He said, oh, I'll get it to you tomorrow. And then it was like the world's most boring set of tax returns, which is what he said it would be.
And he's like the poorest member of the United States Senate, pretty much.
Pretty much. Well, certainly since his wife stopped working to help with the campaign. I mean, it's $206,000, which is low for a member of the Senate for sure. And you're just not going to win that argument trying to make Bernie Sanders out to be some sort of money grubber.
But this is really about corruption, isn't it? I mean, there's no reason you would ever pay Hillary Clinton $250,000 to speak for 45 minutes unless you were hoping to influence government.
Of course, there's no question about it. You know, I always make the comparison that most of D.C. is like the show Veep on HBO, except the Clintons, they're like House of Cards. And it really is true. If you look at the Clintons, you look at their history, there's so much in there. And, you know, you may be right. She may be holding out until the general. But that's a dangerous game to play because those Bernie supporters don't like it now. They won't like it then.
But she's over a 250 delegate lead. I
know she's going to be the nominee.
I'm talking about will they support her in the general? And I think a lot of them are going to be so disgusted by her.
You may be right.
Come out and support us.
Luckily, we're going to have more time to talk about this. You all are coming back later in the program. Have a great breakfast.
Thank you.
See you in a little bit.
Thank you.
Anna B. Koyman.
Maybe they'll take our order too, Tucker. I'll take some eggs over easy, please.
Amen.
39 minutes after the hour, on to some other stories.
Lying Ted Cruz has absolutely no way he can win. He's lying Ted. He lies. And Kasich has he's 1 for 38. I mean, he's running. I'm just running. Why are you running? I don't know. This is crooked Hillary Clinton.
Well, that was Donald Trump, the GOP frontrunner, taking on his opponents once again in language that not many would describe as presidential. How is it working? That's the question. We have a terrific political panel seated outside on a couch, as you can see. Democratic pollster Jessica Tarlov, political reporter for Real Clear Politics Caitlin Huey-Burns, and Republican strategist Boris Epshteyn. It's great to see you all. Boris, I don't think I've ever seen a candidate enjoy himself more than Donald Trump clearly does. I mean, nobody would ever tell him to do this. No consultant would ever recommend that he do this. No, he seems like he wants to do it.
Not only is he enjoying it, his supporters are enjoying it. How many Trump supporters? The people are enjoying it.
We're in Manhattan right now, so that's amazing.
He's bringing out, in all seriousness, he's bringing out supporters in droves. People are joining the Republican Party. He's bringing out not just people who have been in the Republican Party, but those who are maybe Bernie supporters who's not going to go for Hillary. So he's really changing the game, and the rest of the GOP has to get in line, forget all this stop Trump nonsense, and make sure we beat Hillary in November.
So, Jessica, my theory is that Trump is succeeding because he's talking about jobs. But I also think his style is appealing to some voters, and maybe there's a lesson for Hillary. The only moment I've really found her appealing to the whole campaign was when she barked like a dog. People mocked it, but it seemed real and kind of joyful. Why doesn't she look at Trump and say, a little bit of that might go a long way for her?
I wouldn't be surprised if her campaign consultants were taking heed of this. I think it's really hard to make Hillary Clinton into Donald Trump.
It's inauthentic. Her consultants might be
But he does, and you say what consultants would advise him to do this. There's no way that Roger Stone hasn't told him that this is a good idea.
No, this is who he is. This is who he is.
It can be who he is, but he has a team now. We shouldn't be acting like Trump is operating in a vacuum here. There are people who are telling him this is working, this isn't. Think about this, for instance. You know, last week there was a leak of an internal memo for his campaign with the talking points.
Right.
You know what was missing? Banning Muslims. There's no way that his campaign consultants didn't say to him, tone it down on the banning Muslims. Still, we're going to build a wall. But he is being advised. He's being told what to do. Melania was out there for a little while, and now she's gone.
Right.
That wasn't working.
No, maybe you're right. So, Caitlin, at what point, I mean, truthfully, the presidency is the most significant job in the world, in world history, actually. And at some point, you do kind of need to seem like you're equal to the complexity of the job. Do you think that Trump does change tone at some point?
I don't think he can help himself. He is running two separate campaigns right now. He has the campaign that you just talked about, which is his, Paul Manafort and others talking to the RNC, trying to, pitch this new kind of candidate. And then you have Trump kind of back to his old ways, the lion Ted and all of that kind of thing. I've talked to a lot of Republicans who say, look, if Trump's the nominee, once he starts going after Hillary Clinton and kind of branding her that way, that could be something that kind of helps to unify the party a little bit.
Right.
There could be a caveat, obviously. There is, the Never Trump movement. But I think he'll continue this. But if he focuses it on Democrats, I think more Republicans might be excited about that.
I think that's right. Very quickly, Boris, I'm not going to vote for Bernie, but I kind of love his campaign because of moments like the one we saw yesterday when Rosario Dawson, this actress, comes up and says, I'm on Monica Lewinsky's side. She's against bullying, and so am I. Why haven't more Republicans made the obvious point that Hillary can't run on behalf of women when she's attacked individual women like Monica Lewinsky?
Well, there was a candidate who did that, and who is it? It's Donald Trump. The one time Hillary went after him on women, he said, how can you do that? Your husband's Bill Clinton. Look at his record on women. And Hillary stopped, and she went back to her corner and has completely backed off of him.
So what's going to happen when Trump hits her? If he's the nominee, he's going to say that exact same thing again and again. What's she going to say?
Well, I think it's a very difficult line for her to toe there. I think that she's going to, like she has with Bernie Sanders largely when things have come down to the gender card, she's kind of stood back and let it just happen and see how it plays out to the audience. Her spokesperson, Brian Fallon, has said, we're going to leave it up to you to decide whether the finger wagging is sexism, etc. But she has a real tough road.
Does she have to apologize at a certain point for attacking all those women?
No. I think if she's running against Donald Trump in a general election, I think that's what she uses, those poll numbers that show him, lagging far behind among women. We got a preview, as you mentioned, of that kind of matchup. I think that's exactly how it's going to be framed in the fall.
Thanks a lot for joining us this morning.
Thanks.
I hope you'll stay on the couch all morning.
Speaking of women, it's my mom's birthday. Happy birthday, Mom. I love you.
Happy birthday. I totally agree with that. Back to you, Anna.
Make sure you buy your mama something good. All right, 37 minutes after the hour, on to some other stories making headlines. This is a Fox News Alert. One firefighter